Warcraft's lore has been told and retold for nearly 30 years, from the pixelated battlefields of Warcraft to the sprawling worlds of modern WoW. But here's the thing, the story you think you know, it's probably not the story Blizzard told the first time around. Over the years, timelines have shifted, characters have had complete personality makeovers, and entire histories have been rewritten. Some harmless tweaks, but others, they changed the very foundation of the Warcraft universe. My name's Will, and today we're counting down the top 5 biggest lore retcons in Warcraft history. The ones that left players scratching their heads, rewriting their fan theories, and in some cases, questioning Blizzard's memory of its own story. Number 5. We'll start off light because if you played Warcraft 3, you remember the Kaldorei, the Night Elves, as deeply spiritual people. They fought fiercely to protect nature, and they had a strict rule: no arcane magic. Why? Because the last time they used it, they nearly blew up the entire world. In vanilla WoW, this was still the case. Night Elves were druids, warriors, and priests, but not mages. Even the in-game lore, the Highborn, the original arcane users, were exiled or dead. Arcane magic was a cultural taboo. Then Cataclysm happened. Suddenly Night Elf mages were on the streets of Darnassus, happily studying spells like it was no big deal. The explanation? The surviving Highborn had been reintegrated into society. Now, in fairness, Blizzard did add a short questline about this, but for a long time, lore fans felt like it was a major reversal of one of the defining elements of Night Elf culture, the ban on arcane magic. The taboo that once shaped their entire identity, gone, all in the name of a new playable class option. Coming up at number 4, few moments in Warcraft are as iconic or as tragic as the culling of Strathon. In Warcraft 3, it plays out as a tense moral standoff. Arthus discovers the city is infected with the plague and decides to kill everyone before they can turn. Uther and Jaina refuse, seeing it as a monstrous act. Arthur goes through with it, cementing his fall from hero to tyrant. But over the years, Blizzard has tweaked the details. In the Wrath of the Lich King dungeon, you can play through the culling alongside Arthus, but the tone is subtly different. The in-game version portrays him as colder, more matter-of-fact, and more militarily justified. Later novels like Arthus, Rise of the Lich King go even further in reframing his mindset, adding new dialogue and inner monologue that change how we interpret the moment. Was the culling always a tipping point into darkness? Yes, but these changes shift Arthus from tragic hero making a desperate choice to a calculated leader already halfway down the path of no return. It's a subtle retcon, but it changes how you see every other choice he makes. Coming in at number 3, for decades Warcraft fans believed one simple truth. Orcs turned green because they drank Manoroth's blood. Straightforward, right? It's the moment that damned the Horde, and the reason the Magheart, the uncorrupted orcs of the Outland, stayed brown-skinned. But in later expansions and chronicles, the explanation changes. The green skin, turns out it's from any prolonged exposure to fel energy, not just drinking the blood. In fact, even orcs who never took a sip could still turn green by just hanging around warlocks or fel magic. In fact, from a lore perspective, an orc warlock can only be green. But essentially, this opens up a massive can of worms. In the older story, green skin was a visible mark of damnation, a sign of a specific, fateful choice. Now it's basically environmental exposure. The narrative weight shifts from a singular act of corruption to a slow, passive change. For some players, this dilutes their entire character's history. For others, of course, they can take it or leave it. Either way, it's a retelling that changes the symbolism entirely. Coming in at number 2, when the Titans created the dragon aspects, they were given near godlike power. Alexstrasza the Lifebinder could command all living things, Nosdormu could control time itself, Malygos' aspect of magic was unmatched in arcane mastery. And in early lore, these powers were absolute. They were the living embodiments of their domains, even in vanilla. And then, expansion after expansion, the scope of their abilities got dialed back, often to make them beatable raid bosses. Deathwing, once the cunning Earth Warder, became a massive, screaming set piece. Nosdormu, Master of Time, somehow couldn't see or stop certain acts because it had to happen. And I won't even get into Malygos because we quite literally wiped the floor with him. But by Cataclysm's end, the aspects basically lost their powers entirely after defeating Deathwing. Dragonflight of course gives them a blessing renewal, but even then their abilities seem far more limited compared to the Titans' gifted originals. Now, was this all for gameplay balance? Probably, and was some of it shielded behind Blizzard's capability of showing us? Almost definitely. But it does create a huge disconnect between the way they were originally described and the way they're shown now in modern WoW. I put this at number 2 because I want to leave it up for debate. Please do let me know in the comments what you think of the dragon aspects then versus now. And yeah, just give me your opinion. And finally, number 1. If there's one retcon that quite literally reshaped the entire Warcraft universe, it's this one. In the early days, Warcraft 3 manuals and the original RPG books, the Titans were depicted as benevolent, godlike beings who roamed the universe, bringing order to chaos. They shaped Azeroth, imprisoned the old gods, and then moved on. Simple, elegant. And of course, leaving the Titan Keepers to protect us, the facilities, and guard the prisons. And then came Chronicles. Suddenly, the Titans weren't all-powerful gods, they were flawed, finite beings. The Keepers and Watchers they left behind had their own agendas. The old gods weren't just chaotic invaders, they were part of a much bigger, more complex cosmic hierarchy. Of course, Blizzard's need to go bigger and bigger in Manifest. But even the timeline changed. In Chronicles, events we thought that happened in a certain order, like the imprisonment of the old gods, were recontextualized. The neat, mythic origin story became a tangled web of unreliable narrators and conflicting perspectives. For some, of course, it is that kind of depth and intrigue, the larger World of Warcraft universe. But for others, it felt like a portrayal of the simple, mythic tone that made Warcraft so compelling in the first place. At one point we were fighting kobolds in Northshire, and now we're kind of parallel with these Titan beings that have been almost brought down a little bit, as the player character has been inflated as well. Anyway, either way, this single retcon wasn't just a small difference. This technically changed the entire foundation of the Warcraft universe. And that is why I gave it the number 1 spot. Retcons are always hit or miss. On one hand, they let Blizzard keep the story fresh, fix mistakes, and of course expand the universe. However, they risk alienating fans who have been here since the beginning. Whether you see them as necessary evolution or law-breaking blasphemy, there is one thing for sure. Warcraft's history is as much about rewriting the past as it is about forging the future. And of course there are a few notable mentions like the Tauren Paladins as well as the whole of Shadowlands, but we can get into that maybe on another video. If there's a retcon that you can't stand, please do let me know. Or what did you think about the list? Would you have changed the order maybe? Either way, please do let me know in the comments. And if you do want more of these videos, I would love to make them. This was really fun to do. Do like and subscribe if you like the video. And yeah, my name's Will. Thank you so much for watching and have a lovely day.